property and public transport, and Marty Morrisey attends the opening night of the musical about Susan Boyle's life, I Dreamed a Dream. Our number is 1850 715 900. You can email Mooney at rte.ie or send a text message right now about anything at all to 51551. And a very good afternoon to you. God, listening to that audition clip there of Susan Boyle when she appeared on Britain's Got Talent. Could you believe it? That was actually 2009. What are we in now? 2012. Where has the time gone, Marty Morrisey? Where has it gone?
Somebody would want to put a break on life. It's just going way too fast for us.
Would you like to hear it again?
I'd love to hear it.
This is the audition. This is the moment Susan Boyle walked onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent and became famous, not just in Britain and Ireland, but worldwide on the WWW.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
You didn't expect that, did you? Did you? No.
I dream of love that never died. I could have gone before I was young and unafraid. When dreams are made and used and wasted, there was a ransom to be paid. No sun and sun, no wine untasted, but the tiger's come with their voice as soft as thunder. As they tear your hopes apart, as they turn your dreams to
Well, now, I had to hear that through to its end, because you have to hand it to her. It was that voice that really captured the imaginations, the hearts of everybody who saw it. Because if I remember distinctly, she came onto the stage, Simon was, yeah, who's this one now? Look at the state for a kind of attitude, kind of the pen up to his mouth, and I couldn't believe it, and he didn't want to sit through any more of this crap, let's face it. That's the impression he was giving. Remember that, Marty?
Absolutely.
And then she started singing, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the ears pricked up and everything else, and he could see ching ching, all the kind of dollar signs. But anyway, Susan Boyle was on the programme about 2 months ago or thereabouts, and she was here with Elaine C. Smith because a musical about Susan's life was about to take to the stage. It's called I Dreamed a Dream. When she was here, I asked her about being bullied in school. Why were you bullied?
Because this hobby is different. I was on special tablets to control my hyperactivity, so kids that age do not understand, and they just say anything to you. And then I could also scream quite a lot as well. They thought, oh baby, I've got somebody here I can get going for. Oh, you know. So
And I
there
read
you
they
go.
had a nickname for you, which was a terrible nickname, I thought.
Well, I had a couple of nicknames. Okay, maybe Simple Susan or something like that. But I don't want to get into names here because they can't haunt me. They can't haunt me anymore now. And this is growing up, and I've had a bit more sense, I think. You know.
Did you have friends in school? Did you have close friends?
I tended to be okay in primary school because I had a sister who was a teacher.
Yeah.
But when I was in secondary school, I tended to be a wee bit isolated. I went about myself quite a lot, you know. But I think it's just because I was a normal adolescent, you know.
So she didn't have the easiest of times in school. She also told me that when she was born, she was deprived of oxygen, and the person who delivered the doctor or the consultant said to her parents not to expect much from Susan because they weren't going to get much. And despite all of that, at the age of 47, I think she was she, when she appeared on the stage of Britain's Got Talent, her whole life turned around, and we know the rest is, as they say, history. Anyway, the musical opened last night at the Grand Canal Theatre, and we thought, who better to send than our own Marty Morrisey. Now, Marty, I can't remember why we thought you'd be the best person to send.
I don't even remember myself.
In any disrespectful way. But were you aware of Susan Boyle before this? Presumably you were, like everybody else.
I mean, it's probably a good place to start, Derek, from my perspective, because I knew of Susan by watching her on TV and said, wow, what a voice. And I was aware of the YouTube, and I was aware of the Twitter reaction and the number of the amount of interest that was in her. But I never really said to myself, this lady is going to make a huge impact. I thought she was going to be a one-night sensation, she'd be gone. And I suppose we're brought up now that we work ourselves in the media, where image and youthfulness and sex appeal and the way you dress and the way you look are all important ingredients. And initially it certainly looked as if Susan Boyle didn't tick any of those boxes.
No, she didn't, let's face it.
No. So it was. So I went last night not quite expecting anything, neutral perspective. I was more probably concerned from our point of view in terms of where we work and what we do about the production values, and see how are they going to do this, because it was an interesting project to say the least. And so I can honestly say I went in, okay, I can leave or take Susan Boyle. I was uninhibited or untinged by what had happened in the past. But what a change.
What a change. Well, tell me, what is it like? I mean, is she on stage for the entire hour and a half or whatever it is?
No. Derek, when I go on holidays, and I like to spend a little bit of time in New York or go to London or whatever, I spend a lot of time going to theatre and going to Broadway. I just love shows. So I was expecting, okay, this came from England. And I thought, all right, we'll see what it's like. But never quite expected what I saw. If I can describe, first of all,
yes.
The imagination, creativity and sheer raw talent that was on the Borgash Grand Canal Theatre stage last night. And I'll start, if you don't mind, with the set, because I think you've got to picture this in your mind. When the show opened, there were various characters in the darkness on basically boxes, right? Now, I could see through the darkness, there was lots of what I thought were television monitors, packed up, high, from ground level all the way to ceiling. There must have been about 80 to 100 television monitors. The front, there was a little house, a very small house, a little model of a house, with that being lit up. And then in the middle of it, when the lights came on, Susan was there, i.e. Elaine C. Smith.
Who's playing
the part of Susan Boyle.
Okay, yeah.
And she starts to describe her life from being a baby, being diagnosed when she was born on April 1st, that, because of the depth, the lack of oxygen, that she would never really achieve anything, doctor told to her parents. But the father said, you know what, she'll be fine, because we have a house of love, and we'll love her, and we'll mind her, and we'll bring her along. And never quite expecting again the talent that were now in their arms. So they went home, and we moved on. As the stage musical moved on, we moved for various stages in her life. And the television monitors began to light up in various things. And through technology that I don't understand, Derek, they were able to paint pictures. For instance, they were talking when her dad was dying, and the mother and Susan were on the stage, and they were describing, she was trying to tell her mom, look, your dad is not going to really survive much longer. But on the television monitors, it was like an artist's paintbrush. They were able to paint and see the church setting and the church background, the church windows, painting across the various monitors. So not alone did you have the acting, but it was coupled with an intriguing set design that kept evolving and changing as the story changed. If there was a school environment, if she was in school, you had a school background. You know what I mean? So it was very clever. I have never quite seen anything like it.
Sounds quite surreal, actually.
It is. And I went in, when I saw the set first, I said, I'm not too sure this is going to work. But then by the time the break came, I said, wow, this is really impressive. So now you had a marriage of a set design that was imaginative, different, using television monitors, and they would come up every now and then, different pictures, but painted on. You'd see it going on. You say, oh yeah, the set has now changed. So you're coupling the words. You're focusing on what the actors are doing, and it's linked to what the set is changing and evolving as the stories change. And the way they tell us about, Susan tells us about a story, a fairy tale of being a baby, and she'd click her fingers and the set would change. And so would the monitors behind. And all that would change physically, the only movement of actors was when they would change the the boxes that they were on initially. So it was very
Did she
clever.
change?
No.
I mean, are you looking at the same person? I mean, are you seeing the years as she ages up
No,
to now, or is she as she is now, looking back?
Looking back, I mean, but obviously,
But they're not bringing in people playing the baby in
No,
the bed,
not at all.
or the
This
father
is-
dying, and none of that kind of stuff.
Elaine plays every part. There's an odd
So how many
costume
people are on
change.
stage then at that stage?
I'd say there's about 9 or 10.
Oh,
I'd
okay,
say,
right. She's not standing there on her own like a monologue,
No.
and the graphics doing the rest.
No. The main characters would be her mom and her dad, her friend Lorraine. The doctor plays a part. The teacher plays a part. We get a scene about bullying. Very, very different aspects of her life until we come, of course, to the Britain Got Talent, which is mainly in part 2.
Right.
But her life story comes in part 1 from
So
being
there
a
has to
baby
be a
in
build-up.
hospital. There's a huge
Beginning,
build-up.
middle, and end. I mean,
Yeah.
is it happy at all?
Oh yeah. I mean, there are some really funny lines. Like when she was being bullied in school, and the scene starts. If I can keep mentioning about the monitors
Yeah.
changing and painting, so we get a picture of a school being evolving and changing as they're acting on stage, and we have a teacher coming out. She says, she was a music teacher, and behind were a couple of students, acting the maggot, and she says, my problem with teaching music is that nobody actually wants to sing or can sing. But then along comes Susan Boyle, and Susan Boyle sings and stops the class. But then she suffers from bullying, and the bullying impact is quite dramatic because they keep using this thump on every now and then when she says, leave me alone. So she went through a lot of mental torture in the sense of the bullying aspect, because you'd hear the thump, which was quite a dramatic effect, which was used continuously throughout the storyboard. But anyway, let me go back to the stage whereby she was bullied, and they had her on the ground, and she was like a baby on the ground. And this guy, John, became her hero, and he came along and he told the bully to get lost, that he was going to report him to the superior. So John, she never met John then for years until she was at a dance. And the dance move, the choreography here was quite simply superb, as was the sound. Because what they did, Derek, was while they would be singing and dancing, they would also mix the music so that the narrator, in this case, or the storyteller, Susan Boyle, i.e. Elaine C. Smith, was able to come over the sound of the singing and dancing. While it was full volume initially, it faded beautifully. So you now could hear the music, but you could also hear the story.
Okay.
And she said that she hadn't met John in many, many years after they left school. And so suddenly there were a dance scene, and they were dancing to music, and it was a waltz, and they were moving around. The choreography was magnificent. And then they kind of more or less bumped into each other in the middle of the dance. And John says, "How are you, Susan?" And they had a chat, and he asked her to dance. And she says, Who with? And she says, with me. And she said, you with me? And, it was quite funny. So they develop a friendship, which turned into a relationship. And we have another funny scene where they telephone each other, and it's kind of, okay, we might go somewhere tomorrow, whatever it was. And, okay, you hang up. No, you hang up, John. No, you hang up, Susan. One of those funny puppy love
Brenda every
affairs. and it gets some great laughs. So it's a story not all about sadness. While 'tis there and 'tis part of Susan's life, to the great credit of the producers, they didn't actually ignore it. So you get the sadness, you get the hardship. She lost her dad, which was an amazing piece of acting that I saw, and lighting and sound put together. And the father's role in this was quite significant, because it was just, he came and he touched both of their shoulders, and then he walked up. There were steps. There was always steps of stairs, and he walked into the light, passing into the next life. So it was very moving at times. And she had a huge love of her dad in particular, and she mentioned continuously that all she ever wanted to do was to sing. But she wanted to stop a room like her dad. And at the First Holy Communion, there was lots of singing, and there was all sorts of crack going on the stage. And then the father would be asked to sing, and he would stop a room. He sang Scarlet Ribbons, and it was, you'd want to be made of stone, Derek. Can I say this? And I know this is a musical and it's a play, but you want to be made of stone, not to be touched by that particular act on stage.
Well, that's a lovely song anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of mulling it over in my brain there at the moment. It's kind of, it makes you think, that kind of song does make you think. So I could imagine that bringing everything to a complete standstill, and the whole place going very quiet and silent at that stage. Yeah. It sounds wonderful, Marty, I have to say. It sounds fantastic.
Marty, first of all, it sounds like you were moved by the whole show. I mean,
I was, to be honest with you, because as I say, when your show and asked me, Angus, I rang to know would I go to this. I said I'd be delighted because I love going to theatre, but I'm not moved to the extent. In most shows I go to, like this one, and I wasn't a fan of Susan Boyle, so this wasn't a big thing for me. But by the time the break came, I absolutely loved Susan Boyle. I loved what she has done and what she has achieved. Like, she's had a lot of hardship, and to do what she did and to achieve since at 47 years of age is heroic. Now, she wouldn't think that she's a hero because she did it because of only one thing, her love of singing.
Yeah, she's very shy. That was the impression I got when she was in here. You know, doesn't particularly like the glamorous, the public profile side of it. But she is doing what she wanted to do, which is to sing, which is the important thing. Did you get to meet her, by the way?
No, I didn't actually. But I did. We after the show, when the show was over, we got the reaction of various people, the audience members, and we also got a chance to have a word with Elaine C. Smith.
Well, we'll have a listen to that in a moment. Does she appear on stage herself? Because when she was here again, I said, will you be in this show? And it was kind of, there might be a cameo appearance.
Yeah.
Do we get to see her?
Well, you know, Elaine C. Smith, who co-wrote this, she said, you know, in most stories, you have a beginning and you have a middle, but there is still no end to Susan Boyle's story. I mean, the statistics of her achievements in terms of YouTube and all the various hits and biggest platinum selling albums, all that sort of thing, is just phenomenal. So, but there was an ending I felt last night to the story, because matching the choreography, the music, and I must mention Ed, the young director, because I think he has to be given, Ed Curtis. He's only 31, I believe, Derek. But his imagination and creativity shone through here last night, as well as the acting of Elaine C. Smith. So my ending, as I saw it, was when the show finished, there was a standing ovation, the curtain went down, and there was a lot of people beside me, and they were packing their bags and they were going up, and then there was just silence, and then a voice came and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Susan Boyle." Up went the curtain, right? And then there was a second kind of a see-through, transparent kind of a curtain underneath that. And there she was. Standing ovation immediately. She was dressed in a beautiful green dress. She was like Queen Elizabeth, actually, when she arrived in Ireland, if I could compare her to that. But there was that aura about her. Because Elaine C. Smith, I think she said it to you, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, that if she was doing her job properly, that immediately that Susan Boyle would appear, she would get a standing ovation.
Oh, yeah.
She got 4 of them last night.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah.
She sang "I Dreamed a Dream." Now, Elaine Smith, I have to say, as an actress, not that I've never done it, but I admire the people who do these things. I just love the whole scene to be able to do it. It's actually hard on her because she has performed magnificently on stage all night. She's carried the show. And she's a beautiful singer as well. And next thing, Susan Boyle sings. And
gets the standing ovation.
Wow.
4 of them.
You know, I mean, just
No,
phenomenal.
I know what you mean.
I mean, 10 out of 10 to Elaine C. Smith for her acting ability and her singing ability. And then Susan comes along, and you have to be touched by the whole thing, because suddenly she's there. You know that you've known that she was deprived of oxygen at birth. You know she was bullied at school. You know how difficult her life has been. She's now 47. She had let herself go since her dad had died, and now suddenly she was launched into fame. And had found it hard to deal with because she's naturally shy, as you say, Derek. And then she has blossomed in recent times again, because her recording performances, which got her away from performing in front of everybody else, was a stroke of genius in some ways. Logical, but a stroke of genius in the sense that it got her into a recording studio and she could sing, and people have responded.
What won her over, or what won me over to Susan Boyle really, was Wild Horses. Apart from seeing her that night on the Britain's Got Talent and being taken by the actual story itself and her coming on and then winning them around. But actually, when I heard Wild Horses, I thought that was just the most wonderful version. Anyway, we've got to do Money's Money on that break, and then we'll hear how you get on talking to some of the cast and some of the people to get their opinions, not just Marty's opinion, of people who were there last night. About the Susan Boyle musical, I Dreamed a Dream, which is running at the Bord Gosh Energy Theatre in the Grand Canal. From last night it opened. Marty was there on our behalf, but it's only running until Saturday.
Yeah.
That seems like a very short run.
I think there'll be a demand, if
Well,
like
there will be
2000
after today.
Yeah.
Are they paying you?
Definitely.
Do you get paid for coming in and giving?
No, not at all.
Is there anything bad at all about it?
No, the only thing I would say negative about it, which is a positive, is that part 2 was so short. Because
That's always the way.
I was looking forward to more.
Second half is always shorter. I find sometimes when you go to the theatre that the first half, you don't really care about it. You know, you think, would you ever end till we get to the good bit? I want to see what happened when she went on Britain's Got Talent. That's the bit. And so you have to get all that background. It's building you up, giving you the backstory, and then
Yeah.
So did you get the Britain's Got Talent?
We
bit?
did, and that's where the television monitors also played a role, because in the beginning of part 2, it is one of the... Do you know how you go to something even as a child and you remember it forever and ever more? Now, I'm far from being a child, but last night, the beginning of part 2 will linger long in my memory, because we're transferred to Glasgow to an audition. And she arrives with the handbag and the coat, and they're announcing the various acts that are coming along. And we have, on the seat, we have a clown, we have kind of 3 Elvis Presley impersonations, we have loads of acts, right? And there's Susan in the middle of it. And what happens... And the interconnection between them is very, very funny. And then one guy at the end starts playing a guitar, and then another guy's beating the drums, and suddenly we have a song going. And it is the choreography of this to me was just... I laughed, I almost cried, which I didn't, but I laughed and I said, now that's a piece of pure theatre. It was just magical. And it was always... We kept going back to this clicking the fingers and changing the scene. But that to me was just a personal moment, as well as the moment, the sad moment when when her father died. But that to me was one of the highlights. But it's all... We're just saying there in the break, Brenda and yourself and myself, about the connection. And Susan Boyle, to me, connected not alone her story, but herself when she came on the stage. She just connects with the audience. Yeah. Because not all of us are perfect. And in the world we live in, it's not all about...
Marty, no, what I was saying was, when she came out in that Britain's Got Talent audition, and she did that scene that millions of people have seen on YouTube, and she blew everybody away, what was so refreshing was Simon Cowell has a very packaged idea of what a pop star is and how beautiful a pop star has to look, and there's certain ways you have to conform in terms of how you looked, and she walked out and her hair wasn't done, her eyebrows could have been waxed a little bit more, so to speak. She didn't
like
look like a lot. But you know what I'm saying, she didn't her beauty and her talent came from deep down, right inside, and that radiated, and it blew any idea of, you know, that of a pop star and what it should look like and what Simon Cowell thinks a pop star should look like out of the water, and it touched people that particular moment.
We'll have a listen to people's reactions, but we've got way up to probably 45 or thereabouts, so just in case you're curious about that. But anyway, you caught some reaction from other people there last night.
Yeah, we did indeed, and I think everybody left. We're in a recession, we all know about it, but last night, if the people who were there, 2,000 of us I think were there, packed into what is a lovely, beautiful theatre for these kind of productions, and well done to everybody there. But everybody left with a happier beat in their heart. They had to, no matter what way they were feeling going in, they left a lot happier. And last night, after the show, not only did we speak to Elaine C. Smith, but we also spoke to several members of the audience.
Very good.
Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. Goosebumps.
Wonderful. Absolutely fantastic. And far more than we didn't know what to expect.
That's it, yeah, it was brilliant.
And just wonderful to get her life story, and the real thrill was she came out, and what a voice. Powerful, strong and passionate.
Shivers.
I thought it was absolutely magnificent, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I especially enjoyed Susan at the end.
Excellent, wonderful and joyful night.
It was lovely at the end. It was a surprise when she came on, because I'd heard she would make a guest appearance, but then it looked like it was over and it's not going to happen. It was still fantastic, and then she comes out, oh my God, it's overwhelming. You know, we can all do it. My mum came, she's 85 years of age.
Very good, very good. Well, I love her singing and Andy Case, like, you know.
Absolutely fantastic.
It was beautiful, it was very nice, I loved it. Fabulous, absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Can I first of all ask you about your reaction to tonight's show? I know it's your first time performing in Dublin.
It is, and it's a bit of I've had a dream tonight, really. You know, I always had, although I've been here lots of times on holiday, and I've never got the chance to perform, so what a reaction, you know, to come out. And because a lot of my family are from this part of the world as well, there's just something wonderful about that. My great uncle and my grandfather's side was Count John McCormack. So that I was brought up listening to that, and to suddenly come out. So I'm actually quite emotional, quite tearful of it tonight.
Tell me about your relationship with Susan herself, because you co-wrote this, which is a phenomenal achievement when you see what we saw tonight.
Well, I just felt after I'd met Susan, it was actually the whole opening I wrote after I was at her 50th birthday party, and I came home that night. I woke at 4 a.m. and got up, and I wrote the whole opening with Joyce and the child, everything, and sent it to the producer, and I said, whoever we get to write this, it's got to be magical. I kept thinking about the opening of Carousel, where Billy Bigelow is looking down on his life, and I thought, that's the way, because what has happened to Susan Boyle is a fairy story. And she doesn't marry the prince, but she gets a career.
And in terms of tonight, I mean, I know what you said with Derek a couple of weeks ago, you know, that your job would have been fulfilled if you get a standing ovation for Susan. But you got a standing ovation. The whole show got a standing ovation, as well as Susan.
That's what's been wonderful. Actually, my thing to Susan, I always say, we'll have done our job if they're on their feet before you come on. And when that happened the first night in Newcastle, I got really tearful. Andy Gray, my great friend who's in it as well, he said, see, he holds my hand and goes. And of course, I get actually very embarrassed at the stand ovation. It's classic. You know, you do all that and I think, well, and they keep saying to me, take the bow, take the bow. And so I was standing there and I could hear Andy saying, stay, because I just want to run back. But the Dublin audience got all the stuff about the tradition of singing and how that matters, and that great Irish tradition and the tradition of Burns in Scotland, that song, unaccompanied singing, was how we entertained ourselves, and I grew up in that living room the same as Susan, watching that happening, and I mean I could cry. I'm actually very emotional at this.
And indeed, I think a few of us were in tears tonight, and we were laughing at times and we were crying at times. But for you as the performer, it's a roller coaster ride. For us, is it for you?
Yeah, exhausting. I just lost my dad a few months ago, so 4 weeks before we started rehearsals. So all the stuff about Susan's father and everything that resonates and echoes, and you go to a dark place in yourself. And it sounds very actory, which I tend to resist a lot of the time. But I don't think I've ever been so tired doing it.
Well, enjoy it, and thank you for bringing a bit of happiness to Dublin.
Absolute pleasure. It's been a thrill.
And a bit of business to the theatre as well, and why not? Because I know it was sold out last night. It's only running until Saturday. You've heard some of the audience and their views on what they saw last night. You heard Marty's. Now you make your own mind up. If you want to go along, we bring it to you, because we talked a lot about Susan Boyle all that time ago. My goodness, 2009. I find it hard to believe it's so long ago. It's extraordinary.
And you know, one
It really
other
is.
point, Derek, before I leave you. There's a live orchestra which is conducted by Kennedy Atchison. It's spellbinding. We're brought back to the 70s and 80s, and you have loads of really good music.
Oh yeah, name 6.
Knock 3 times on the ceiling
if you want me. Twice on the...
Yeah, exactly. At 17, you love that.
I learned the truth at 17.
We had her in here.
Janice Ian.
She sang it.
Here?
I remember, yeah.
I must have been out. How could I be out that
About
day?
3 or 4 years
One
ago.
of my favourite songs.
Daydream Believer.
Yeah.
And we also have Something Tells Me Something's Going to Happen.
Something's going to happen tonight. Oh God, I'm showing my age. Yeah,
It's all
great.
right.
Yeah.
You've all of that as part of it. So you have tears, you've laughter, you've live music, you've got great choreography. Certainly, it's the best recommendation. I know it's my first time doing this with you, Derek, but I have to say it's 10 out of 10 for me.
Well, I
I'd
think
recommend everybody should go.
Every show coming into Ireland from here on out will want Marty Morrisey to come on. You did that so well. I'd hate to hear you if you were lashing into it and saying it was a load of nonsense.
Well,
I'm sure you
we
do.
have to call it fair and honest.
With ease and grace. Now, before you go, how is the hurler?